So the movies I'm gonna review all today is Child's Play series. I'm gonna go into a little bit of detail about each movie and my thoughts on them. So the first one, Child's Play, was released in 1988. It stars Catherine Hicks, Alex Vincent, Brad Dourif, Chris Sarandon, um, directed by Don Mancini. I'm assuming everyone that's seen the Chucky movies have seen all of them, so spoilers. Now, for starters, uh, the main antagonist of the movie is right from the get go. He's being chased down by a cop, Chris Sarandon character, um, and so he hides in a toy shop to try to escape, but then he ends up getting shot, and so he finds this doll, a good guy doll that he possesses, and then he wreaks havoc on his family. Um, Mainly Andy Barkley, that's a young boy who wants a good guy doll for his birthday. The animatronics done for the doll is really great. It's scary and realistic. How so many people work on just the eyes, and the facial expressions alone, and it's just really impressive even today. Um, and there's certain scenes when the original Chucky, it looks so much more realistic than the later installments. For some reason, I guess they added CGI or the lighting wasn't right or something. But the first film, it was actually one of my favorite movies growing up. I still love it. It didn't really scare me much. I was more scared of Leprechaun back then. But the whole voodoo aspect of it wasn't the original idea. They actually wanted to go with what their intentions are in the remake they're doing later on this year. Is that they wanted it to be a really smart AI type toy. Um, Instead of the possession voodoo aspect, because they some of the crew members actually didn't like that, but they went with it anyways. But apparently a lot of other people liked it, so it's really interesting because I really liked how the conversation between the mother and Andy about how she thinks she's making it up, and then the cop thinks that the kid is the killer, which actually was the another one of the stories I wanted to go with instead of the voodoo, as they wanted the child to actually be the killer and he just made up in his mind the doll killings. But the acting is really good. It's like, especially from Andy or Alex Vincent. I thought he was really good in that, especially in that scene when he's in uh, the mental hospital or whatever it is. And he's like crying. I thought that was really believable, and of course, you got the voice of Chucky, played by Brad Dourif, which he's amazing. Um, Ow, little bitch. Sorry, but so anyway, um, in the very end, whenever Chucky gets burned alive in the fire pit or the fireplace by Andy, and Chucky's like, "We're friends to the end, remember?" And then Andy's like, "This is the end, friend." I just thought that was pretty badass. But anyway, it's a really good movie. The ending with Andy looking back at Chucky, and he just looks terrified. It's just a pretty unsettling ending, really, because as difficult as it was to kill him, it's obvious that they're probably gonna make a sequel, and they did. which was actually praised today probably more than the original, which says a lot for sequels because half of them aren't near as good as the first. But the sequel, it improves on the story. It gets right to it with Chucky killing, and he's brought back from the toy company. They rebuild his body, which I never said why they would rebuild it if they're aware of the killings from Charles Lee Ray possessing the doll. Um, but so Andy gets adopted, which I thought was really sad because you could tell in the first movie that Karen really loved her son, and but we don't see any of her in the sequel except in a picture, and we hear about her. But then Chucky's once again after possessing Andy's body, and then it gets more intense with even the adopted parents thinking it's Andy that's a psycho, or I don't know, just more people being thrust into the situation. Which I love the sequel too, but I always will. I think I still like the original better. Um, just because it is a little darker. Like with every installment, it gets more lighthearted and comical. Um, but with the third one, Andy's grown up, played by a different actor, and he's in the military. And that's the thing. The environment is what I think kind of ruins the movie for a lot of people. It doesn't fit in this category of horror really, and I don't think it does. I don't think it really goes well. But I mean, it's still a good movie. And it had, if you want to, have a final conclusion of killing off Chucky, then this would be the way to go about it. If you didn't want to watch the other ones after the third, I would say that fan thing and the game and the roller coaster ride kind of would have killed him off, I guess, because he was into little pieces and nothing was left really. Which except in Bride of Chucky, where it shows like he's not all that cut up, which from the from what you see in the third movie, you can tell there's nothing really much left to work on. But for this purpose on Bride of Chucky, he's still intact pretty much. With she's always the show stealer. This is Pumpkin. But so Jennifer Tilly is brought on board as the Chucky's love interest, and she stitches them together, and she was under the impression that he was going to propose to her because he had left a, there's a ring, that she assumed was for her, but it wasn't. He just stole it after the woman they killed. But this is where the series really goes into pretty much full force comedy, and that's not really good. As a kid, I loved Bride of Chucky's actually my favorite because I did love the character Tiffany, and I did like the story about how it was like a road trip kind of thing. And Chucky, his look was really good. You can't even see. By the way, that's nowhere, doesn't even compare to the movie, but which I did try to fix him up a little bit. I painted him a little bit and cut his hair. Presto. But so here you have Katherine Heigl and Nick Stable and John Ritter, which is Jason Ritter's father. That was in Freddy vs. Jason, which Ronnie Yu directed Freddy vs. Jason and Bride of Chucky. So he had his father in this movie, and then his son in the Freddy vs. Jason. But anyway, So there's really very little dark in the movie, honestly. I mean, the kills are, of course, dark, but I mean, um, so I still watch the movie. I still like it. It's just I should have made it darker. I keep saying that, but um, so it's particularly the scene with the have sex, and they're like, "Oh, I'm anatomically correct," and she's like, "I'm crying. I wonder if bottle plumbing works." Um, it was too far. I mean, I get they had to have a kid, I guess, for the Seed of Chucky, which I would have totally done away with that. Not even had the kid, honestly, or in the movie, or had the sex scene. Um, I don't know. It was just too much. But then there's aspects of the movie that was really good. Like the directing was good. You know, the story was good. I liked it. Of how, the main characters were getting married, but then they were suspecting each other was the killer to get away and have a happy ever after. But then they, of course, they play their cover basically, and they're like, let's go. So um, I still enjoy it, but I do think some of the comedy should have been cut out. Like if Freddy vs. Jason, like Ronnie, you directed that, like that was pretty dark still. Like especially compared to later installments in both series, our franchises of the Jason, our Friday 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, it was still really dark, and that's what appealed to me really, as far as that movie is. So I think if he carried that to this film, it would have been a whole lot better. Um, but then we get Seed of Chucky. I'm gonna make this quick because it's horrible. I did like it when it first came out, which I was still a kid. I was still a teenager. Um, but it was just so confusing. Like you got the character Tiffany, played by Jennifer Tilly, but then Jennifer Tilly is also playing herself in the movie, so it's kind of like a breaking the fourth wall type of thing. Or it's really confusing. But then, um, you get Glenn in the story where he's supposed to be made in China, and he's not really because he's, you know, I don't know. So automatically knows Taekwondo, and um, so then the whole Hollywood uh part of it what didn't go well with it either. So not only does it have a slow build up of, you know, them finding out what's going on with the murders and all, but um, it's also uh, just more uh, sturdy as far as the story. And then you got Fiona Dorff, who is Brad Dourif's daughter. She's in it. She's really good, actually. Um, and she had a really interesting character about how she was basically born crippled because of due to Chucky or Charles Lee Ray at the time. Um, um, it was just, and you know how it references back to Child's Play in 1988, where Fiona Dorff or Nika is blamed for the murders uh, somehow, which I don't know how because you know obviously in the later installments everyone knows of Chucky and how it's a possessed killer doll and they're aware of it. So I don't understand why if the doll is there, like why uh, everyone would think that Nika did it. But anyway, um, I realize it's because he did go into Barbie mode, but still. Um, so with Call of Chucky, I was so hyped up for this movie because not only the the placement it was in, the like with the mental asylum, and then Chucky being in it, and then Alex Vincent being in it from the original, and then Nika being back, which I had really liked her character already from the Curse of Chucky, and wanted to see more of her story developed. Um, but I guess that's why I was so let down. Not only because it was really slow, like not in a good way either. It it had really interesting aspects of it, with uh, some of the characters, like the other inmates and our patients. Um, but I guess with the white backdrop and all, from the scenery of the hallways, Chucky just looked really weird. It looked really fake for me. I guess because with the white, it really brought out the colors of Chucky and his movements more, so it looked more. It was more obvious, or it stood out more as to his puppetry. Um, but yeah, that is honestly probably the most biggest letdown because like I said, I liked Cheetah Chucky at first when it first came out because I was still a kid, but um, this I was expecting a lot since after Curse of Chucky. I thought that Don Mancini had really got back to his old roots about the characters and the tones and story, and with the story that was and the trailers and the just the the plot really, and it just fell flat because it was most the most underwhelming because it was it did have good aspects in it, but then later on it just especially with that plot twist at the end with the excuse me with the possession of multiple dolls, it makes no sense. Honestly, how can you possess something at one time other than one time and multiple times at the same time? I mean, I get voodoo might not make sense to everyone anyway, but you know, um, still, and then supposedly, in the next installment, uh, Jennifer Tilly and the behind the scenes, she was mentioning how it's probably gonna be another road trip, kind of like Thelma and Louise. Yeah. So I really don't know what to make of this. But the good news that they are going to make a remake based on the true intentions of the character about it being an AI. So that's exciting. But then they also are going straight to Netflix with the Don Mancini's original movies. So they're going to continue on those stories, which honestly, I think it's going to be bad. Getting worse. Because if it's going to be a TV show, they're going to have to change it per episode basically to keep it going, I guess. And I can see it just going really, really bad and being canceled, honestly. But maybe this will be the kick in the butt for him to realize he needs to get back to his A game. But apparently, a lot of people like it, the comedy in it. Which some comedy is fine, not to take it too seriously because it is about a killer doll for, you know. But still, so that's my review on the series and my thoughts on the whole franchise basically. There is more, but that would take forever. So yeah, go back and revisit the Child's Play franchise and watch out for dolls.